Recording in progress.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to MTEL's conference call for the first half of 2023 results. All the materials for today's call are available on our website www.mitratel.co.id. Today's call is being recorded and a replay will be available after the call. There will be a CEO remarks and followed by presentation from our CIO before the Q&A session. Before we start, let me remind you that today's presentation and responses to the questions may contain forward-looking statements within the meaning of Safe Harbor. The projections or estimations may involve risk and uncertainty that may cause actual results to be different from what we discussed today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure now to introduce MTEL Board of Directors who are joining with us today. Our Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Theodorus Ardi Hartoko. Chief Financial and Risk Officer, Mr. Ian Sigit Kurniawan. Chief Operation Officer, Ms. Hastining Bagio Astuti. Chief Commercial Officer, Mr. Agus Winarno. And Chief Investment Officer, Mr. Hendra Purnama. Without further ado, I will now hand over the call to our CEO for his remarks. Please, Pak Teddy, time is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our conference call for the first half of 2023 results today. Please allow me to start today's call with a few remarks before handing it over to our CIO for more detailed presentation. In the first half of 2023, MTEL continued its growth momentum, posting 4.13 trillion in revenue, or increased by 10.8% year-on-year. Our revenue growth is significantly higher than the industry, which is expected to only grow mid-single digits. EBITDA and net income grew by 16.1% and 14.7% year-on-year respectively. Moreover, EBITDA margin and net income margin are expanding at 81.2% and 24.8%. As of first half 2023, MTEL owned 36,719 towers in all regions in Indonesia, making MTEL the largest tower provider in Southeast Asia in terms of total tower ownership. With the right strategy to monetize those assets, we believe that MTEL has healthy long-term growth potential and has become the dominant tower provider in the industry. We are also expanding the tower ecosystem business, including fiber and power to the tower, as part of our strategy to strengthen our product positioning. By the end of first half 2023, we have successfully deployed 21,256 kilometers organically to strengthen the tower business ecosystem. Furthermore, our business plan is supported by a strong financial position with relatively low leverage ratio that allows the company to have financial flexibility and take advantage of growth opportunities while at the same time providing an optimum returns for our shareholders. This concluded my remarks. I will now hand over to Pak Indra, our CIO, to deliver a more detailed presentation. Please, Pak Indra.
Thank you, Pak Teddy. I will start our presentation. Okay. We go to the next slide. Okay. Probably most of you already know, but I would like to confirm that MTEL currently is the biggest tower owner in Southeast Asia. As of first half 2023, we own 36,719 towers. Okay? And we are one of the leading industry growth in terms of year-on-year. Our revenue growth close to 11%, EBITDA 16%, and net income 14.7%. It has been proven during the pandemic period and over this macroeconomic condition that MTEL has been resilient, and our net debt to EBITDA also still at 1.8 times. We also don't have any forex exposure. In this case, all of the revenue, costs, and also loan is still within the rupiah. Okay. We are also the tower consolidator champion, especially in Indonesia, where we acquire around 21,000 towers since 2019. We are also the preferable independent tower co to accelerate MNO coverage, especially outside Java, where our tenant growth improve or increase around 26.5%. MTEL also entered into the fiber to tower business since last year. As of now, we own about 27,000 kilometers, which has been deployed. Next. This is the composition of MTEL shareholder, not much change from the previous. In total, for the free float, 57.8% owned by the foreign institution and 42.2% of the free float owned by the domestic investor. Telkom still remain the majority shareholder of around 72%. Okay, next. Okay. This is what happened within Indonesia telco and also tower industry. The first one, many tower operator in Indonesia start the expansion within the region. All of the tower company also start to fiberize that the asset, in this case the tower. MNO is also start to craving out all of the asset and pass through or work together with the infraco to actually to deliver in terms of the SLA commitment. MNO also provide the managed service. The managed service business from the MNO is also being delivered to the infraco company, and also the small cell. Small cell now is actually start to deploy or start to dedicate it to the infraco company rather than being part of the MNO. We also see that Internet of Things is now starting to more and more being used, and is also a potential client for the tower company. And then we also see that the MNO start to become start growing network virtualization, which basically they are taking out most of the asset, and then and which is now is actually being handled by the infraco. Okay, multi-access edge computing. We also seeing the rising interest. However, this might not see in the potential demand probably will continue to increase within the next couple of years. Also depend on the deployment of 5G. In building coverage also start to deploy to the from the MNO to the infraco. And we also see the connectivity using satellite as the backhaul for the equipment, especially in the remote area. Then for the adjacent business, we see that there's four potential adjacent business that is currently growing within Indonesia tower business. The first one is the fiber optic. which the market size until 2028 continue to grow around CAGR 19%, and by 2028, estimated the market size will be around 10.8 trillion rupiah. Power as a service also has been started this year, and with the CAGR of 3% by 2028, we see the market size of this power as a service can be as high as 1.7. Active sharing at the current time is still very low, but by 2028, we see a quite significant improvement, especially driven by the demand. And we, Mitratel, continue to discuss within the FGD regulator and also researcher principle to actually explore the potential of this sharing, active sharing. Okay? And last thing is the DAS or small cell. We'll see that the CAGR will grow around 13% until 2028, with the expected market size around 1.7 trillion rupiah. Okay, next. Okay. In terms of the track record in building tower, by first semester 2023, we own 14,575 towers that built organic or build to suit. This is a CAGR of 44% since 2010. Okay. The location also remain in the strategic location. Around 78% of our tower don't have any competitor within the radius of 300 meters. Okay. And then in terms of the tenancy ratio, as of first semester is 1.49 times. But then if we take out the acquisition, then our tenancy ratio as of first semester is at 1.82. And the last point is basically our asset is actually quite beneficial for the MNO, especially the ex-Java asset. And we also have an attractive proposition to the MNO, especially with the adjacent product. Okay. Next slide. Okay. This is the growth of the co-location or tenant in by area. The number one area which is the most increase, if you see, is actually in the Bali and Nusa Tenggara, where close to 29.4%, followed by the other big island outside Java Island, which is Sulawesi, Kalimantan, and North Sumatra and Central Sumatra. So this is actually to prove that our strategy that the growth of co-location will increase outside Java. The Jabotabek area, the increase is 34%, is because of the last acquisition that we did using the which is acquisition from Telkomsel and also from Indosat. The number of towers increased by 27.6%, and our co-location consolidated increase around 19.1%. The number of tenants also been increased close to 25%. Okay, next. Okay, in terms of the performance, as Pak Teddy already mentioned, our year-on-year growth close to 11%. The significant contribution still remain by Telkomsel, which is around 58%. This is contribute 18% growth. IO is actually 20% of the total revenue, which represent 13.6% growth, and XL around 10% from the total revenue, representing 7.5% growth. In EBITDA margin, which is quite improved compared to the last year. This in terms of last year, this year EBITDA margin or first semester EBITDA margin at 81.2%. Net income margin also increased from 23.9% to 24.8%. The number of tower, also we now have 1,301, which is around 385 from build to suit, and the rest or 997 from the last acquisition. And for the new tenant, we have 2,712. 1,688 is basically a new colocation. Around 1,105 is from the inorganic activity. Okay. The number of the fiber optic, now we own 27,269 kilometers. This is quite a significant increase compared to first quarter, which is around 25,509. Next slide. Okay. In terms of the business, the tower model business contribute the highest percentage, which is 93.2%. And the EBITDA margin is also at 85.4% for the tower leasing. This actually, in terms of year-on-year increase 15.5%. The other business is fiber optic. The fiber optic business contribute around, in terms of the contribution from the fiber optic, 61% is basically come from the organic and 39% is come from the M&A. The EBITDA margin for the fiber optic is at 86.7%. For the tower related business, the EBITDA margin is actually at 20.7%. This is a significant improve because in terms of the growth is actually around 29% lower compared to year on year. So this is because the project itself is still ongoing. We are targeting the project will finish in the second semester. In terms of the amount is around 200 billion rupiah. If the 200 billion rupiah is actually already booked in terms of the revenue, then the year-on-year growth should be a positive one. Okay. And the last one is actually the reseller business that we are trying to phase out. So the EBITDA margin is still maintaining at 88.4%, with the year-on-year growth is actually at minus 8.8%. This is because some of the reseller tower owned by third party has been acquired by Mitra Tel. Okay, next. For the expenses, most of the expenses we are managed to actually control. If you see the total expenses only growth around 8%, while if we split between the operation and depreciation and amortization, the highest contribution is actually come from the depreciation and amortization around 17.6%. For the operation expenses, if we see more detail, the planning and O&M of tower growth 9.6%. This is actually still lower compared to the revenue growth of 15.5% and the tower growth of 27.6%. Construction and project management is dropped 34.6%. Is because the project solution, most of the project is not finished yet. So we are still pending around more than 200 billion rupiah. Then when we are able to finish the project, we will book the revenue and also the cost for this project solution. GA, relatively the same. For the employee compensation, increase 8.5%, mainly contributed by the adjustment according to the latest tax regulation. For other expenses, the increase of 42 compared to 21 billion last year is actually because of the allowance of the undoubtful account receivable. Last year, the number of undoubtful allowance for account receivable is actually dropped quite significant. That's why there's about minus 12 billion rupiah last year, while this year is actually plus 3 billion rupiah. In terms of other expenses, it's basically remain the same. Next slide. For the backlog, we still have a strong backlog of backlog visibility for the next couple years, mainly come from Telkomsel, which growth about 18.2%. Indosat, Ooredoo, and Hutchinson is contribute 20%, which growth around 13.6%, and XL around 10% with growth of 7.5%. Telkom is actually at 7%. This is minus 27.5%. It's actually due because of the project solution has not been completed yet. And in terms of the contract that expired, around 64% of our contract still it has the expiration date more than 4 years. Okay. Our revenue visibility still remains strong at CAGR 40% since 2018. Okay. And in terms of the market share, wallet share from Telkomsel, we basically have 60% of the wallet share. From XL, we got about 39%, which basically 100% is actually a co-location. Okay. And from IO, we get 52% of wallet share. Again, it's actually mainly build to suit. Mainly co-location. Okay. Next slide. Okay. In terms of the balance sheet, in terms of the ratio, our net debt to equity still at 0.47 and net debt to EBITDA at 1.8 times. Our fixed loan versus floating loan also now around 39 versus 61%, and most of the bank is actually a private bank with 4.5 years of average maturity. Our cost of fund is also still one of the lowest in the industry, at around below 1%, JIBOR plus 1%. Next slide. This is our fiber optic. We basically built the fiber optic across the nation, since Sumatra, Kalimantan, until east of Indonesia, which is in Bali, Nusra, and also in Sulawesi. By first half, we already received about 11,000 kilometers of order, and by this year, we are still targeting to finalize 13,000 kilometers. The total land that we own is around 27,269. Okay. Next slide. This is our ESG. We basically, in terms of the environment, we are continue to reduce our emission, and we also continue to change our old battery into a lithium-ion battery. Social, we also contribute in many activity from delivering food, also blood donation. Okay. For the governance, we have many certification, ISO certification, and also policy enhancement, and also gender equality improvement. Okay. Next slide. For 2023, we still maintaining our guidance. Revenue increased by 11%. EBITDA increased also at 11%. CapEx 7 trillion, which by first half we already used about half of it. And for the organic growth, we still targeting 4,000, 3,000 from co-location, and 1,000 from build to suit. And in organic, we are targeting 1,500. As of now, estimated we already have around 1,000 new tenants from this inorganic. And lastly, the fiber optic, by end of this year, we are targeting to build 13,000 kilometers. Okay. This is conclude my presentation for today. I hand over to Pak Andi.
Thank you, Pak Indra, for the presentation. And now we begin the Q&A session. So please raise your hand, and before you ask your question, please state your name and the company. First question will be coming from Ranjan Sharma. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. It's Ranjan Sharma from JP Morgan. Thank you for the presentation. I have two questions. Maybe I can take them one by one. Firstly, on the tower leasing revenues, our calculations indicate that the tower leasing revenues have declined from the first quarter to second quarter. Is that a fair calculation, and what is the reason for that? I'll just stop here before asking the second question.
Sorry, Ranjan, can you repeat the question? You say the revenue, the lease rate, or the revenue?
The tower leasing revenues seems to have declined from the first quarter to second quarter.
Okay. For the decline, I think it's more like on the sell and leaseback, okay, with the last acquisition. Okay. Our rate for the tower is still remain the same, around 12.7 million rupiah for the macro tower.
Sorry, I'm seeing that the number for second quarter for tower leasing is 1.71 trillion versus first quarter at 1.74 trillion. So it's come down on a quarter-on-quarter basis.
Oh, okay. You see the total revenue, yeah, Ranjan?
Tower leasing revenues.
Tower leasing revenue. Okay. Okay, I think tower leasing revenue still increase. Okay. Perhaps there's a renewal process still ongoing. So since the renewal has not been signed, so we have not booked it in our revenue yet.
Okay. Okay, maybe I can take that offline. The second question is, what percentage of your towers have been reclassified to length of, or to a depreciable life of 40 years? It seems like you're doing that exercise, right?
Yes. We already changed it to 40 years since September last year. So now it's all of the tower depreciation already 40 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ranjan. The second question will be coming from Husaini Safi. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, sure. Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for the call. Two questions from me. First, again, similar to Ranjan's question, I see that the revenues coming from Telkomsel and XL Axiata declined on a quarter-on-quarter basis. But particularly from XL Axiata, where I see that the revenues have declined by almost 29% on a quarter-on-quarter basis. So just wanted to understand what drove the decline. This question number one. And maybe second question is linked to the visibility of new co-location or build-to-suit order flow from the three telcos. Any visibility on that side?
Okay. I try to answer the first question. I think in terms of the revenue even come from XL is actually still increase. As I mentioned in the presentation, the increase from XL, the increase from XL is 7.5%. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, Pak means what I see is that for the first half, XL revenues in fact declined by 9%. That's on the segment revenues on note 27, page 122 of the FS.
Page 27, is it?
Page 118 of the FS.
118. Okay.
Yeah, maybe if it is linked to the timing, probably we can take that offline.
Okay. Yes, because maybe we can take it offline because our information or the data that we have is actually still increase in terms of the revenue, either come from Excel or from the other MNO.
Understood. Then the second question on the visibility of order flows from the three telcos for the second half.
Come again, Husseini, sorry.
Just wanted to get the visibility of order flows from the three telcos for the second half.
Oh, okay. So, for example, in terms of the Telkomsel, most of the build to suit still come from Telkomsel, and we still, as I mentioned before in the presentation, all of the build to suit is actually come from Telkomsel. Excel has been give us an order quite significant number of total order close to 1,700. Okay. Indosat or IO, we as I mentioned before that we do have a commitment of 1,500 from IO. That commitment is actually still waiting for purchase order or PO, expecting that it will show in the third or fourth quarter. So most likely all of the order will be received by this year from IO for the 1,500.
Okay. So that IOH orders, will that be executed this year or that's
this year?
It will be executed this year only. Understood.
Yes, this year.
Okay.
And then you will see the number probably in the next quarter statement.
Understood. Got it. Thanks, Magenda.
Thank you, Hussaini. The next question will be coming from Arthur Pineda. Please unmute yourself, Arthur.
Hi. Thanks for the opportunity. Several questions. Firstly, just a housekeeping one on the financials. I'm just looking at the quarter-on-quarter trends. Seems like financing as well as D&A have risen quite dramatically. You did mention that you're extending your asset life, but I'm just wondering why this is actually going up. It should be going the other way. Maybe that's my first question, then I'll take the other questions after.
Okay. For the depreciation, if you see on the page 11, is actually almost flat. There's a bit of increase because of the acquisition that we did.
On a quarter-on-quarter basis?
Yes, because the acquisition is actually in March. Then most of the depreciation you will see significant 3 months, while compared to last quarter is only like less than 1 month.
Understood. And on the financing, it's also linked to that?
The financing, yes. Come again, sorry.
So the jump in financing expenses is also linked to the same issue? Because the deal was closed in March? Okay, understood.
Okay. Yes, for the financing is actually for the small part is for the dividend and also for the acquisition. The whole acquisition is actually use the financing from the bank.
Understood. Second question I had is with regard to demand coming in from 5G. Are you actually seeing the operators talk about raising their tenancies related to 5G? Or is it merely swapping out the existing equipment and replacing that with 5G equipment?
Okay. For Telkomsel, I think they already started to to replace the 3G equipment, and in certain location we already work closely with them to install the 5G equipment. So it's actually based on the location. So to answer your question, yes, probably it's actually replacing the 3G with the 5G.
Understood. And last question I had is with regard to fiber, because when you look at some of your competitors, they've been driving the business with fiber to the home. Is that something that you're looking to get into as well, or is that something which, because your parents involved with that on PT Telcom, is that something which you cannot expand into?
Okay. Until now, our fiber is only focused to the tower. So we that still remain our main focus for this year.
Understood. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Arthur. The next question will be coming from Rishabh Dansolia. Please unmute yourself, sir.
Hey, hi. Thanks for the opportunity. So, a couple of questions for me. Firstly, can you explain the nature of change in tax policies which have led to rise in employee costs? And secondly, we have been noticing that the tower lease rentals have been declining on a quarter-to-quarter basis. What is driving the same, and when can we get them? When we expect them to get stabilized?
Okay. Maybe if you can help to repeat the question.
Sure. Firstly, what is the nature of change in tax policies that have led to rise in employee costs?
Okay.
And secondly, on the tower lease rentals, it has been declining on a quarter-on-quarter basis. When can we expect them to get stabilized? Or yeah.
Okay. The question on the tax policy is actually the regulation in terms of allocating. It's actually we are following the new regulation for allowance for the employee. So this is basically just to match between. It's actually the increased cost of the employee is not actually increasing the benefit or salary. Okay. It's more like on the tax related matter. Okay, and then the second question. You asking about. Let me confirm. You asking about the lease rental. Okay. I think for the lease rental is actually increased also due to the bundling product between the tower and the fiber.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Rishabh. The next question will be coming from Ayu Ningtyas Api. Please unmute yourself, Bu Ayu Ningtyas.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. My question is regarding your capex plan, ya, Pak. As you mentioned earlier that you're planning on spending like around 7 trillion rupiah for capex plan in 2023. Can you please explain portions that goes into organic and the portions that goes into inorganic expansion or acquisitions? Thank you. That's my first question.
Okay. For the capex of 7 trillion, so the major contribution is actually from the inorganic around 2.7 trillion rupiah, and then for build to suit is actually around 1.1 trillion. For the fiber itself is also around 1.5 trillion. The rest is actually others, strengthening, etc.
Okay, thank you. And my next question is, how's your view regarding your business expansion going forward? Will you like having more aggressive capex, for example, as we know in 2022 you have like 11 trillion capex and declining in 2023. How about the next for example in medium term, will you still using this aggressive approach for this capex, or you're having more conservative approach that translated into more conservative capex? Thank you.
Okay. In 2023, we see that the 7 trillion capex should be sufficient. Especially, we see that there's no significant acquisition probably happen in 2023. But acquisition is something, or M&A is something that is a bit unpredictable. In case there's actually a bigger acquisition, such as what happened in 2022, we also have remaining. We still have about 3.1, 3.2 trillion rupiah money from the use of proceed from the IPO, which can be used for organic and also inorganic growth. On top of that, we also have around like 5 trillion rupiah in terms of limit from the bank that we can draw down at any time, either is for organic or inorganic purposes.
Okay, thank you for the explanation, sir.
Thank you, Bu Tias. And the next question will be coming from Pius Hodari. Please unmute yourself, Pius.
Yeah, hi. Good afternoon, and thanks for the opportunity. This is Piyush from HSBC. Couple of questions. Firstly, Pakan, you mentioned tower renewal process is ongoing, and that's why you can't book that as a revenue. So can I understand how much of your tenancies are going through that renewal process where you have not booked the revenue? Because the reason we are puzzled is, though you are saying year-on-year revenue has increased, but quarter-on-quarter, from first quarter 23 to second quarter 23, your tower leasing revenue have declined. So we are kind of unable to tie up, right, these things, that your tenancies are increasing, but your tower leasing revenues are coming down.
Okay. We will. Okay. Around like 100 billion in terms of the revenue is actually still ongoing discussion. So not until that we sign the agreement, then we're able to book that revenue.
So this is, but this will become a recurring phenomena where when the towers are in process of renewal, so you will not book them as revenue?
Yes. So it's actually the same thing happened last year. So there's actually a process of renewing. So we actually delaying the revenue until close to the third quarter or fourth quarter last year. So this year also we still have some contract, and the value, as I mentioned, is about like 100 billion rupiah. That's still in discussion.
And this is for the quarter, 100 billion, or for the full year?
For the full year.
For full year. Okay. And the other thing is, like again, I'm happy to discuss with you on the calculations, but our calculations are showing your revenue per tenant has now gone down to 10.6 million per month.
Okay.
And it has declined, year on year by 9%, and quarter on quarter it is down by roughly 4%. So what is driving this change?
Okay. I think is that I guess depend on the tower itself. Okay. In terms of the macro tower, I think our lease rate is still around 12.3, 12.4, while the sell and lease back and also micro, that's probably lower than that. So I guess depend on if you put it on average or if you just put it on the based on the tower itself or the type of the tower.
But no, I understand and totally appreciate it. But where would it settle? It is now down to 10.6 million per month. You're guiding, like SLB is also, from what we understand, sale and leaseback is at 10 million, right? So would it settle down at 10 million, like your blended rate also? Because you're already at 10.6 million on a blended basis.
Okay, probably in that calculation, they also, as I mentioned to the previous question, already the contract that's still in discussion that is not, we haven't booked it yet. Okay, on maybe we believe that the lease rate should be steady around that area.
But you are not seeing it. Are you seeing any pressure at the time of renewal, Pak?
Okay.
Like in their renewal contracts, is the price coming down?
Yeah, there's a discussion and there's actually a request of the rate to go down. But now we basically bundle, including fiber and also power as a service. When we bundle the lease rate, then it's actually will be actually an increase, not instead of lower. When the bundles when the bundle product, usually we put it everything in the as a complete lease rate.
And
We
when
actually-
would be the impact of that be visible in the reported financials, where you will start see the lease rate stabilize or improve?
Okay. Probably you see it in the December in fourth quarter statement.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Pak.
Yeah, it's a bit challenging to see it on the quarterly basis, but then by the yearly basis, then the number will start to make sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Pius. The next question will be coming from Tarun Bhatnagar. Please unmute yourself, Tarun.
Yeah, thanks for your time. Quick question. I wanted to check on your operating cash flows. They have actually come down in the first half. I think one of the reasons you mentioned is tax. What are the other reasons? Could you please explain? Thank you.
Okay. And in terms of the operating cash flow, one of the aspects is probably the dividend payment, and the money from the IPO also is not as much as before. And also we also do a refinancing for some of the loan, especially the one that is a bit expensive.
So that would not be a part of operating cash flow, I would guess. I'm just talking about the operating cash flow, which is down significantly. I'll give you the numbers actually. So it is,
Okay.
I'm talking about the operation activities. So it is down to 3.4 trillion from 4.4 trillion in this half.
So you mean the operating from the
Cash from operating
the customer? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The operating cash from the customer is actually is increased, but then in terms of the operation, yes, the part that we actually use is actually the one that to repay the loan and also for the tax payment also. But I don't think there's any significant changes on top of that.
Yeah. So I'll just read out the notes. So the difference is around 1 trillion, and you mentioned around 677 billion is because of tax. I wanted to understand what is the remaining difference, because the EBITDA has also increased.
Okay. Wait, I'm checking the number. So it is from our annual report, first half report.
Yes, please. Page 7 of the release.
Page 7?
Page 4 of the release.
Page 4. Okay, so probably because last year there's a tax restitution around 700 billion, which only happened one time last year due to the acquisition.
Yeah, that's clear. What about the other difference? Because the difference is around 1 trillion, and then EBITDA also increased. So I would guess there is something other than that. Is it working capital or what else it could be?
Working capital. I'm sorry, but I did not Is it the dividend because of the dividend payment?
Maybe I'll take it offline. I'll just contact the IR team and then
Okay.
they can answer.
Okay,
Thank you.
sorry. I probably did not understand, but yes, we can take it offline.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Tarun. I think we still have, 1 or 2 minutes. I think we can take one more questions from the floor. Pak Henry, we have, please unmute yourself, Pak Henry.
Hi, thanks, Pak Andi. Hi everyone. This is Henry from Mandi Sekuritas. Pak, I would like to follow up the previous questions regarding the rate decline and also revenue decline on Q-on-Q basis, Pak. If we look at the net tenancy add in second quarter 2023, Mitratel had more than 1,400 net tenancy add on Q-on-Q basis, and I assume most of them came from the XL Axiata. So just want to check, Pak, when these orders or projects are completed in the second quarter, Pak, is it more on the late of second quarter 2023? Because I think if that happens, that will affect the RPT calculation in here. And then second question regarding the renewal contracts that you mentioned, Pak, do you mind to share how many contracts that are ongoing the renewal process and which telco operators that we speak of? Thank you, Pak.
Okay, Henry, for your first question, is the revenue decline on the tower list?
Yes, Pak, and also from the XL as well.
From what? Sorry?
From the tower list, total tower list revenue and also revenues from XL as well, Pak.
Oh, from XL. Okay. So the number of tower list per customer in terms of okay. So now it should be okay. In terms of the in terms of the statement, I think it needs to be adjusted in terms of the number of tower list per customer. Okay. Sorry, Henry. In terms of the revenue per customer, you basically get the number by divided the revenue and then divided each customer.
Sorry. So what I want to check if we calculate the lease rate in here, the ARPT. So we divide the number of total tenants, the average number of total tenants with the tower lease revenue in the second quarters, right? And then if you look at on the ARPT, it seems to decline from 12.2 million to, let's say, 11.8 million rupiah per month. And at the same time, we also highlight that Mitratel booked like 1,400 tenancy add in second quarter alone. So I'm just curious, when the net tenancy add really comes in the second quarters. Is it in the like April, or is it more like in May or June? Because I think that will affect the RPT as well. That's my first question. So basically, just want to know when the new orders or the net tenancy ads really come in the second quarters. And then the second is more about the contract renewal that you mentioned. If you can elaborate more on how many contracts that we speak and also from which telco operators.
Okay. For the contract, it's actually around 4,000 contract. Okay. Usually the contract will be signed in somewhere in the fourth quarter, but then the revenue then will be inserted for the full 1 year. Okay. That's the amount, as I mentioned before, is around like 1 billion rupiah. Okay. But then in terms of the first question, Yes. Okay. Okay, then
The first question is actually more on the timing. On the timing when you book like the net tenancy app or new contracts in second quarters, or perhaps I think I can also take the this question offline too.
yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'm not quite understand, but usually, as I mentioned, the contract usually being signed at in the fourth quarter. So that's why we usually can see it on the fourth quarter financial.
Okay, thanks, Pak.
Right. I think we have one more questions from Jun Leong Chu. Please unmute yourself, Jun.
Yeah, thank you. I have two questions. The first one is, can you explain the timing of revenue recognition and when do you book the tenancy in your accounts?
Okay. For the co-location, usually takes about 1 month. So 1 month to actually install the equipment. So once the equipment is actually installed, then we can start invoicing the customer.
Okay, so why is it that your revenue per tenant has declined so much then?
The revenue per tenant again,
your ARPT.
is it? Okay.
No, I mean,
is
okay,
it,
I think what everyone's asking is your tenancy count is increased quarter on quarter, but your revenue is declined quarter on quarter. Why is that so?
Okay, so I think the revenue. Sorry, you asking about the revenue increase or you asking about the tenancy ratio? Yeah.
You added tenants in the quarter, but your revenue declined in the quarter.
Okay. Most likely, okay, it's probably there's an order from Excel that is not booked yet. There's an order of about 1,700 order from Excel. 1,000 is already delivered. The 700 still ongoing. This is not a normal co-location because it's actually a bundle service, include fiber and also include power as a service. That's why in terms of the timing, it's getting longer than 1 month.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question is, you I think you said that there were 100 billion revenue that is under negotiation, has not been renewed.
Mm-hmm.
And you said
Yes.
this is for the full year. Can you explain what exactly that means? What do you mean by full year versus for the quarter? Is it just 100 billion worth of contracts or 100 billion run rate, or does that mean when you renew it, you're going to get 100 billion next quarter or only 25 billion?
Okay, so it's about 4,000 contract that is going to expire this year, and the value is 100 billion rupiah cumulative basis. Okay, so as of now, let's say the contract is already start. Some of them is expired in April, and some of them is expired in the second semester. But then all of the contract usually signed and closed by in the fourth quarter. So we will invoice them start from when the contract is actually renew. So not basically only like half year, even though the contract, even though they signed in December, but if the contract is expired in June, then we will start billing from June until December.
And if you bill it in the fourth quarter, so will all of that revenue be recognized in the fourth quarter, or you would
Yes,
do
correct.
it? Okay, so it's quite lumpy because of this.
Yes, correct. So that's why there's a bit challenging if you see it quarter and quarter basis on that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Jun. And I think that question will be the last one. So thank you everyone for participating in today's call. We apologize to those whose question could not be addressed yet. So should you have more questions, please feel free to contact us. And for your information, the recording of today's call will be available for the next 7 days. And we will send the link to your email. This concludes the call for today. And thank you everyone, and see you in the next quarter. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.